Day 6 of Pack-A-Day with Bloomburrow Play Boosters. I'm excited to crack into this one. I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's talk our way through this. All right, starting things off with Alania's Pathmaker. For 4, you get a 4/2 Otter Wizard. When it enters, exile the top card of your library, and until the end of your next turn, you can play that card. Bonehorde Orator is a 2/2 for 2. It's a Squirrel Warlock Bard. You can pay 3 and a black and exile this from your graveyard to return another target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So far, I think we've seen both of these. All right, I'm not sure we've seen a Tree Guard duo yet. For 4, you get a 3/4 Frog Rabbit. When it enters the battlefield, until the end of your turn, target creature you control gets a vigilance and +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control. Unfortunately, you sometimes have to target this with it and sort of let the vigilance and pump whiff, but hopefully you use this to give something at least +2/+2, because it'll count this creature and the other target creature, and vigilance for a nice little attack. Pearl of Wisdom is a sorcery for 3. It costs 1 less to cast if you control an otter, and you get to draw 2 cards. Rabbit Response. It's an instant for 4, including 2 white. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until the end of the turn, and if you control a rabbit, scry 2. Bark Form Harvester. Now this is another changeling, but it's not the same little like mana fixer dork guy that we've talked about previously. For 3, you get a 2/3. It has reach, and you can pay 2 to put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. This guy is also not incredible, but I like him a little bit better than the mana filter guy. Okay, Hidden Grotto. Ooh, this is really nice art. This is a land. When it enters, you surveil 1, so you get to look at the top card of your library, and you can either put it back on top or put it into your graveyard. You can tap this for a colorless mana, or you can pay 1 and tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Now, this is a filter effect that I find a little bit more fun than our little shapeshifter changeling guy. All right, into the uncommons, we have Playful Shove. Deal 1 damage to any target and draw a card for 2 mana at sorcery speed. Pretty decent. Bark Knuckle Boxer. For 2, you get a 3/2. It's a Raccoon Berserker, and when you expend 4, he gains Indestructible until the end of the turn. Pretty solid in the expend 4 decks. I think there's a nice balance here. A 3/2 is pretty easy to deal with, but at 2 mana, that's good value. And then it gets to make itself indestructible. I think it's interesting that if you play this on curve, you'll have turn 3 where you're unlikely to be able to expend 4. So the first turn it's active, or the earliest first turn it's active, you're unlikely to be able to give it that ability. There's some cool tension in this design. I mean, it's not an incredible game-breaking creature, but I really like the design of this. Heirloom Epic. For 1, you get an artifact card, and then you get to pay 4 and tap this to draw a card. For each mana in this ability's activation cost, you may tap an untapped creature you control rather than pay that mana, and you activate this only as a sorcery. So it's basically Convoke to activate an activated ability. Pretty cool for the Rabbits deck in particular. All right, Hoarder's Overflow. So for 2, you get an enchantment. When it enters, and whenever you expend 4, you put a stash counter on this. Then you can pay 1 and red and sacrifice this card to discard your hand, and then draw cards equal to the number of stash counters on this. I definitely think there's at least one other card in the set that's putting stash counters on itself for some type of value. I don't think that one's considered pretty good. I do think that this one has its uses. Obviously, in a limited format, it still feels pretty pretty small value, pretty risky. Definitely, like, I would rather have a more immediate value card in my hand pretty much all the time. But I think this could be something that you could even see in like some commander decks, like you're routinely going to be expending 4 in commander decks. And then, especially if you're like dumping your hand and you don't have anything, you can just sacrifice this thing to draw like 6 cards. That feels pretty solid. Ooh! Oh, this is awesome. All right, we got Dragonhawk Fate's Tempest, and it's in this really sick artwork. So for 5, including 2 red, you get a legendary creature that's a bird and a dragon. It's a 5/5 with flying, and whenever it enters or attacks, exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of creatures that you control that have a power of 4 or greater. You can play those cards until your next end step. At the beginning of your next end step, this card deals 2 damage to each opponent for each cards that are still exiled. This is awesome. This is so cool. I also have a Kalia of the Vast deck, and this is a dragon, so it might find a home in there. This card's really cool. I mean, a 5/5 with flying for 5 is just decent value in like a limited format. Honestly, it's decent value wherever. You know, the power and toughness is equal to the converted mana cost is sort of the minimum, and this thing has flying, so that pushes it a little above the minimum. But then this ability that just lets you, I mean, you know, if this is the only card on your board, you're still getting to look at an extra card each turn. You're expanding the power that you have in your hand. And then in something like an EDH sitting, this thing is just going to get out of control if they don't stop it. And also, just look at that art. This is great. This is also a mythic rare. So we're 6 packs into the box. We got our first mythic. We'll probably find 1 or 2 more. Very exciting. All right. Oops. Here we got a Plains. I think we've gotten a copy of this one. I'm guessing this one's spring, but I'm also guessing that other people know in the comments and are not guessing and can tell me whether I'm right or not. And our rare, we got a rare uncommon. This is Hazard Root Herbalist. You pay 3, you get a 1/4 Rabbit Druid, and whenever you attack, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until the end of the turn. If that creature is a token, it also gains Death Touch until the end of the turn. This is a great little enabler for the tokens deck. Tokens is a strategy I've got going in my cube, so this is probably going to find a home in there. And I also like that, obviously, in Bloomburrow Draft, you want to sort of stick to the colors of your archetype. But mice are in white and red. Their ability wants you to target them with abilities or cards. So if you happen to draft a couple of white mice in your white-green rabbits, this can trigger their abilities just as well as your tokens. Pretty sweet. And then, at long last, a fish token. Great. Love it. On the back, we got this guy. And that's our pack. Well, I think this is probably the most exciting pack. I mean, this card is just awesome, and this art treatment is so cool. I love that I was able to get a special art version of a mythic rare from this box. I hope I get a couple other particularly cool things like this, but whether or not I do, what a thrilling booster pack to open. Thanks for hanging out with me while I opened it, and I will see you for number 7 soon. Bye!